Hey, welcome new class and returning students to Doodling with Purpose, the internet's only week-by-week hieroglyphic class to teach you ancient Egyptian. Well, we're going to continue going letter by letter this week, and it's going to be a bit of a review for those who have been through the first half of the class, episodes 1 through 100. And for those of you who are joining, it's a great chance to start learning how to glyph all of the letters. I'm not going to do them on video as I did the first time. You can always go back and watch those. Here I'm just going to do a diagram. And G, one of my favorite hieroglyphs, is written like this. So this is also one of my favorites because it uses negative space. It's one of the only glyphs that does that. You know, like the old thing you would look at in school, are these two people looking at each other, or is this the Holy Grail, or a chalice, if you will. What you're looking at in the letter G is a water jar stand. It was used to keep jars propped up so they wouldn't be on the ground and spill over. So pretty easy to draw. You're just going to start with the top, do the lines down diagonally, then across, and then you'll draw that negative space in the middle, which represents the airflow through the bottom of the jar stand. Pretty cool. I like negative space. What can I say? It's cool. All right, so let's look at a couple words that start with the letter G. So jar stand, mouth, and flax, followed by a sign that you don't know because that's the determinative. If you don't recognize the sign at the end, it's most likely a determinative. If it's an animal or a person, it's almost always a determinative if that's at the end. And this is actually an important determinative. It's actually a variation of a standard one. So reading it, 1, 2, 3, so you have G, R, and H. Determinative obviously doesn't have a sound. It's just there to tell you what you're looking at. So the standard version of this determinative looks like this, with the two sort of spikes at the end. It represents the sky. So here you have the sky, and in this case you have a diagonal straight line down ending in a star. You know how to draw the star from doing the glyph Saba, S-A-B-A. So this is the word night. Hence you have the determinative for sky, and then you have a falling star. So hence night. Another example of how a determinative helps us read and understand the word. So again, we have our G word. So G, jar stand, followed by R, open mouth, followed by a determinative of a person. And anytime you see a person, man, woman, child, pharaoh, god, it's always a determinative at the end because people are not pronounced. All right, so what we see here is a man in the standard sitting pose, and he is touching his mouth. This is a determinative for something that can't be physical, if you will. It comes from just speaking. That's why they use this specific determinative. Whenever you see it, it's a determinative meaning the word, in this case GR, pronounced with the G and the R. This is to be silent. So he's touching his mouth because silent is not something you can draw, but you can draw a man touching his mouth. So that is the way to jog your memory that you are looking at a word that has to do with being silent. All right, another one with G. So here you have the jar stand, the flax, and a bolt of cloth, followed by an animal. If you see an animal at the end, it's almost always a determinative. And in this case, if the animal is at the end, it's probably what this word is. So in this case, if you can recognize what that animal is, you'll know the word. So the pronunciation, going in letter order of 1, 2, 3, and then the determinative, would be G, H for the flax, S for the folded bolt of cloth. So that would make this gis, or gaius, or gas, because there's no vowels. You have to sort of kind of guess. This is the word for gazelle. That's what I drew down there, a gazelle. And you might say, well, wait a minute, we haven't done the gazelle. We don't know how to draw the gazelle yet. Well, it's a slight modification on something you already know. And this is going to get us into a bigger topic, and let's kind of jump into that a little bit. So you already know quite a lot of pieces of animals. You know standing animals, such as the headless calf. You know the foot of an animal. You know the ear. You know an animal lying down, like the baby antelope, pronounced I-W, ew. So you can combine these together, these glyphs you already know. It's also good to review birds because there's a lot of bird glyphs. Here you have the same standing bird with a slightly different head and feather combination. The first one A, then M, and then Muat. The vulture is a 3-consonant glyph. So there's two basic kind of birds. You've got your standing bird, and then you have your, well, I guess it's also a standing bird, but it's more standing bird with full body upright as opposed to the body going down. And so this type of bird also used for a lot of different glyphs, for PA, for G, for ba, for ah, So yeah, a lot of birds around the Nile. What can I say? The Egyptians drew what they saw. So once again, we can take our knowledge of all of these animals that we know, and here's a few others. There's the frog. It's a very poorly drawn frog on my behalf. You have a Nile carp, you have a lizard, you have Hooper, the scarab, and you have a deceased goose. All right, so the main animals to keep in mind when figuring out determinatives are the headless calf, and then the sitting animals like the rabbit, the antelope baby, or even the lion. And then for birds, you've got your standing and your elongated bird. So let's look at the headless cow, which is Nua, and figure out how you can use that and other animal types to essentially create any animal determinative that you want. So here, the basic headless cow, which is a glyph you already know, can easily be turned, in this case, into the ram or the hippopotamus. Hopefully you recognize these as rams and hippopotami. It's all about basically changing the position of the legs and the head. And obviously every head is going to be a little different. The key is always starting your walking animal with the neck. So I have the neck for the headless calf, and then I have the neck for the hippopotamus on the right, which is a slightly curved line. As long as you start with the base of the neck, you can't go wrong. So here you could see how I changed the base of the neck into the headless calf, or again, the base of the neck into the hippopotamus by drawing the rest of the head, or for the headless calf, the lack of a head. But it all starts with the base of the neck. So here we have the headless calf, and just to show you how we go around, so it starts with a line up, then diagonal, then back down, and then the top of the back, the body. So starting number one with the bottom of the neck, and you'll do the same thing with the hippo, with the ram. Any walking animal is going to start with the bottom of the neck. Once you can figure out the head, you just basically draw the backside of the body, loop around, and then the legs are drawn just like they are with the headless calf, but you might have to position the legs differently. Sometimes they're running, sometimes they're standing, sometimes one leg is bent. Essentially, you can look up an animal, Google's a great source for that, see how it looks, and essentially apply the head and the leg position. So here I've broken up the hippo into all of the different strokes needed to complete the head. Again, starting with the neck. You can see one at the bottom right. And I've gone up and around, over, back, looped, done the ear at the top, and then 10 brings us down to the body. Remember, it's very important to know that with hieroglyphics, you're not drawing freehand. You're doing this with strokes of the pen, or in ancient Egypt, a brush. So every line is its own pen picked up and put down. So here I've followed the directions above, and I've recreated the hippo head, and I've added a mouth as far as just details. There's also an eye and a little extra detail for the ear. But the basic outline is just a combination of strokes, not to be done freehand. So here I've added the eye and the nose, and yeah, now it's looking more like a smiling hippo and less like an obscure shape. But it all starts with the bottom of the neck, and just following the strokes around the head and then back around to the body. This can apply to any type of animal that is used as both a determinative or as an actual letter. Luckily, there's not that many for letters, so most of them are just determinatives, which you can continue your learning and learn as many animals as you feel comfortable, but they're all essentially the same design. Once you've done the head, then you just do the rest of the upper body. So here we have the hippo, has an elongated sort of fat body. It's number 11, and you just continue that. All right, so here I'm going to draw the headless calf again, which is an actual glyph. It's one of the letters. So this one I've drawn with all four legs pointing down. So not my best headless calf, but you know, it does the job. What can you say? Sometimes hieroglyphs don't come out perfect the first time. It takes a lot of practice. That's why scribes in ancient Egypt took 9 years. All right, so that's the basic headless cow. So I'm going to draw it again below it, but this time I'm going to show you how you can manipulate the legs and change them into different positions. Essentially, once you have the neck and the head and then the upper body, now that you're going in and filling in the legs, it's pretty easy to make them in different positions. Walking, running, curved, bent. It's just about changing the way the strokes are done, whether they're straight or they're curved. And most of the animals that are used as determinatives, the only difference is really the head and the position of the legs. So if you know to start at the neck, do the head, and then work your way up around the backside, and then sort of ending with the butt, if you will, and then drawing the legs under that, you're pretty much set, and you'll be able to draw any type of four-legged animal. And essentially every animal that's four-legged, from a giraffe to a hippo, are all the determinatives for their word. So the word for hippo is followed by a hippo determinative. The word for giraffe is followed by a giraffe determinative. So they're all essentially the same. They're just modified as far as the head and the legs. So again, showing you the full hippo and the full ram that started this whole little mess. And you can see how, yeah, they're just slight alterations of the basic headless calf. You're just adding a different head and different legs. All right, let me draw real quick the frog, because this is also a really important one, and we did him very late in the first half of the class. All right, so come around for the head, and then I'll add an eye and a mouth. Not my best frog, but okay. Either way, the frog is the other basis for a lot of sitting animals. So while the headless calf works as a determinative template for walking or running animals, the frog becomes your template for any sitting animals. And there's quite a lot of them. One of the more important ones, I guess you could say, would be the cat. So here you can see I've drawn the cat very similar to the frog. I've given him a tail, and we've just done a slightly different head with ears, come around the back just like the frog. So it's basically the frog with a different head and a tail added. So the key for sitting animals is to start with the back leg and down, sort of the butt going down to the ground. And then the key for walking animals is the neck. So if you could remember that sitting animals start with the bottom of the neck, which that arrow is not pointing to. I'm sorry, the walking animals. And then sitting animals start with sort of the butt on the way down. All right, we're going to continue our journey up the Nile next week. We'll get back to some letters. We'll look at more determinatives. We'll look at more vocabulary. Let me know any questions you have, any concerns, anything you want me to add. That's what the comment section is all about. I really appreciate everyone being in class and checking this out week to week. And if you like this series, you like this channel, do give it a like, a subscription, share it with others. It's the best way to support this channel and continue to share fun knowledge across the internet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week for more doodling with purpose.